Nicole here, the Harmonious Hippy. I hope you're all doing well and staying safe. Today's video is going to be a Vinyasa flow. If you do have blocks that you can bring with you, that is great. We're going to do some poses using the blocks, preferably two. So even if you don't have blocks, if you can grab some heavy books or something that can support your upper body weight, that would be great. Otherwise, if you would like something to put under your knees, perhaps a folded up blanket, something like that, then do go ahead and grab that. As well, if you would like to bring something to put under your seat when we sit cross-legged, then you can do that as well. I have a block under me with a blanket on it. You can grab some pillows, something like that. Just something to get you high enough to get the anterior tilt to the pelvis so that your knee is either below the hip or in line with it. As, not always, but as lately, my one side is not going to be properly crossed, as I still am having issues with my ankle being able to sit like that. But for you, you want to make sure that you are sitting comfortably. Maybe this is your comfortable pose, or even if you want to come sitting on the couch or a chair initially, you can go ahead and do that as well. So otherwise, just two blocks, and let's get started. Okay, everyone, so coming to your comfortable seat, either cross-legged on a couch or a chair, just to start with, just to tune in. You can place the hands on the legs, on the knees. Palms can be face down for grounding or face up for receiving. Rolling the shoulders up and back, nice and straight and open across the chest. I'm beginning to close down the eyes and bringing breath in and out through the nose. Just beginning to tune into the body. Tune into the breath. Tune into the moment. So we're going to do this by going through the five senses. So noticing the sounds surrounding you. Perhaps you can hear pets or people in the distance in your house. The sound of my voice. Maybe you can hear the sound of my fans. Air conditioning. Maybe you can hear traffic outside. And just noticing the light behind your closed eyelids. Maybe you can see some shapes. Maybe you can see the flickering of a candle. Noticing the taste of the tongue in the mouth as it drops from the roof of the mouth, just relaxing the jaw. And now just tuning into the feel of the air on your skin. Perhaps you have a fan on you or some air conditioning. Maybe your heat is blowing and you can feel it against your skin. Feeling the weight of the body pressing down into your chair, your pillows. Feeling the weight of the hands on the legs. Being fully present in this moment. And just beginning to tune into that breath. Noticing if it's beginning to flow freely in and out. And noticing if it feels particularly labored today. Perhaps you've had a really busy day, so it's taking you a moment to wind down. Maybe you were totally ready for this, and you're feeling yourself already beginning to drop in and release down. Whichever the case is, without judgment, just observing that. accepting that. That is what it is in this moment. You can only ever be exactly where you are. So just appreciating what you're feeling in this moment. Maybe you feel some stress from your workday. Maybe you feel sad. Maybe you had an argument with your significant other and you feel frustrated. And just trying to maybe dig in and feel a bit of gratitude. Perhaps in your particular situation, you can't feel gratitude in the moment for that exact thing that's happened or is happening. Perhaps you're not ready to if there is a traumatic event happening. There's absolutely no need to feel gratitude for that. This isn't one of those everything happens for a reason things. So if the particular situation that is sparking these feelings for you is not something that you can feel gratitude for, then perhaps finding something else in your life that you can feel a bit of gratitude for. And maybe that's really hard for you in this moment. Perhaps the only thing you can think of is something small, like I'm grateful to have a roof over my head, or I'm grateful for my cup of coffee in the morning. I'm grateful that I didn't trip and fall today. Something silly even like that. But if you are feeling maybe some stress from your job or something a little bit lighter like that, perhaps trying to dig in and feel some gratitude. You know, I'm so grateful that I do have employment right now. I'm grateful that I'm making money. I'm grateful that my day passed quickly. Something like that. Just trying to find that little silver lining in your life. Maybe you're feeling great. Maybe it's really easy for you. You've got a list running through your head. What can I choose? Everything's great. If that's you, I invite you to leave. No. If that is your case, then enjoy it. Bask in that and just feel that gratitude fill you up. Whatever you can think of. I'm grateful for my hair staying in a ponytail today. I'm not getting loose. I'm grateful that I didn't get a parking ticket today. Anything, no matter how big or small you perceive that to be, just feel that tiny, tiny bit of gratitude growing in your heart. Knowing that things won't always be so hard. And if they're great right now, then they do eventually get hard. Just know that there's always that ebb and flow. There's always going to be times when it feels like everything's going right for you. And there will inevitably be times when it feels like everything's against you and everything's going wrong. Just trusting that will change. And taking a few cleansing breaths here, just to release. We're going to inhale through our nose, lifting our shoulders up to the ears, perhaps scrunching the face and tightening the muscles. And on your exhale, you're going to open your mouth wide, sigh out, and exhale, and just let everything drop. So taking a deep inhale in through the nose, and opening the mouth, letting it go. Twice more, so gathering up all your stress and tension on that inhale. Exhale, release. Last time, squeezing the muscles, squeezing the face, lifting up to the shoulders. Inhale. And exhale with sound, let it go. To blink the eyes open, and we're going to start to bring some movement in. If you'd like to come down off of your prop that you're on, you can go ahead and do that. just so that you feel a little bit more stable. I'm going to remove my block here. So we're going to just start bringing some motion in the hips and the spine. So just starting to make some circles with the upper body. And these can be as big or as small as you'd like to. And you can also start to really bring the neck into it, chest, whatever movement you feel like having today. I've got Herman sitting behind me here, peeking out the blinds, the curtains. So just rotating in, making sure that you're breathing in and out through the nose, perhaps moving your inhales towards when your chest comes forward, and your exhales when you're curling back. And when you're ready, just switching directions. Noticing if this feels different depending on what way your legs are crossed. Sometimes it can feel really, really different for each side. Just bringing that movement into the body. And then when you're ready, just coming to stillness. We're just going to stretch out the neck really quickly. So dropping one ear to one shoulder, and immediately noticing if your shoulders have risen up to meet the ear, just dropping those down. Feeling the stretch across the side of the neck. If you'd like, you can tilt the chin down or up, and this will kind of move the stretch around the neck. Just moving slowly and gently here, beginning to relieve the tension, especially if you have a job where you're sitting at a computer all day. It can be really, really hard on your posture. So just making sure that you take the breaks necessary throughout the day, and also maybe after work, whenever you're joining me here. Just let it go, stretch it out. And slowly beginning to drop the chin to the chest, rolling it around. Maybe pausing in the center for a second. And then rolling up to the other side. Again, checking in with the shoulders, keeping them relaxed down, away from the ear. Feeling that stretch along the side of the neck. Perhaps you can play around with tilting the chin up or down. Just moving slowly. Just letting it go. Noticing maybe your mind is still quite busy, and you notice whenever I go silent that your mind immediately starts to make lists and wander. Without judgment, that's totally okay. But just always trying to bring it back to your breath, bring it back to my voice. Bring it back into the body, maybe, if that helps you to really tune into what you're feeling. And lifting the head back up to the center. We're going to stand up. So removing any props that might be in your way. And just coming to standing, however is comfortable for you. Moving nice and slow. We want to be easy on ourselves today. And we're just gonna open the feet a little bit wider than hip width apart, and we're gonna think as if we're willow trees here. So just starting to rotate the upper body, letting the arms just flap where they will. I also like to lift up my heel of the foot that I'm twisting away from, almost as if I'm doing a golf swing. Things I never thought I'd say. I'm sure my dad is proud. So just letting your body twist out and shake out any tension. You can allow your hands to tap your body at the hips and the lower back, the kidneys. And then maybe lifting the hands up so they tap the shoulders. And just tapping on these points is going to help release certain areas of tension as well. And then over to the backs of the shoulders or tops of the shoulders. Still being mindful, you don't want to club yourself here. You don't want to smack yourself too hard. And down to the fronts of the shoulders, chest area. And the fronts of the hips. And then just taking your time, slowly making smaller movements until you come to stillness. Maybe rocking the hips just side to side for a second. And just rooting down through the feet. We're gonna come into our Tadasana, our mountain pose here. So just rooting through the feet, hip width apart, maybe lifting the toes to get that energetic feeling of the energy pulling up through the arches of the feet, and then just placing the toes back down, pulling the knees up the legs, tucking the pelvis, the tailbone, engagement in the core slightly, rolling the shoulders up and back so that we're nice and open and proud across the chest. And the chin will tuck slightly just to ensure that the crown is growing nice and tall here. Palms can be face forward. And let's just close down the eyes for 1 second here. And just tune into your feet. Notice if you're feeling a particular heaviness in either the balls of the feet or the heels. Trying to keep that even from front to back, but also even from side to side. So making sure that you've got fully even weight, all 4 corners of the feet. You're probably noticing you feel like you're swaying a little bit. That's natural, that's fine. That's what makes it so much harder to balance when your eyes are closed. So just allowing that natural sway. Feeling strong and steady here. Can you maybe grow a tiny bit taller without shrugging the shoulders up? Nice and planted and strong. So we're just going to turn ourselves to the tops of our mats, coming into that mountain pose. We're going to do a few sun salutations here. So flowing with our breath here, we're going to inhale, sweep the arms up overhead. Palms come to touch. You can do a baby back bend here. Exhale, swan diving forward. You can bend heavily into the knees, weight forward into the fronts of the feet, letting the head hang. Inhale into your halfway lift, flat back. Exhale, fold, placing the hands flat on the mat and stepping or hopping back to your high plank. You can drop the knees here or come through your full chaturanga and sweeping up into your upward dog or your baby cobra. Exhaling back into your downward facing dog. We'll take a few breaths here, just really feeling into this downward dog. It's probably the first one of your day. So just wagging your tail, maybe bending into one knee and then the other. Just getting out whatever movement you need to really get yourself comfortable in this pose. Making sure that the pointer finger and the thumb, the knuckles are pressing into the ground to protect the wrist, straightening through the elbows, sinking the chest back while stitching up the core to make sure that you're not really sinking the back there. Inhaling, gazing up at the thumbs. You can bring a bend into the knees and step or hop to the front of the mat. Forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, flat back. Exhale, fold. Bending into the knees, sweeping the arms up overhead, palms to touch. And exhale, hands come through Anjali Mudra, heart center, going straight back in. Inhale, arms sweep up overhead. Maybe a little baby back bend. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift, flat back. Exhale, fold, placing the hands and stepping or hopping back to your high plank. And coming through your chaturanga or your knees, chest, chin. Sweeping up into your upward facing dog or your baby cobra. And exhaling back to your downward facing dog. Taking a breath here in through the nose, out through the mouth. Inhale, gazing up at the thumbs. Bending into the knees and stepping or hopping to the front of the mat, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Bending the knees, sweeping the arms up overhead, palms to touch. And exhale, hands through heart center. Once more, sweeping the arms up overhead on your inhale, palms to touch. Baby back bend. And exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Notice in your halfway lift, if you immediately rock the weight back into your heels, keep that a little bit farther forward. And exhale, fold. Placing the hands, stepping or hopping back to your high plank. Coming through knees, chest, chin, or your full chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog or baby cobra. And exhale, downward facing dog. Take a breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Inhale, gazing up at the thumbs, stepping or hopping to the top of your mat, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, weight forward. Exhale, fold. Bending the knees, sweeping the arms up overhead, palms to touch on your inhale. And exhale, hands to heart center. Just take a breath here. And let that settle. We went through that flow, those sequences pretty quickly, so just noticing what you're feeling in the body. Maybe it's tingling a little bit. Perhaps you're starting to sweat a little, heat up. We're going to move into some moon salutations. So coming to the top of your mat, whichever side you're at, you're going to be obviously moving in towards your mat as opposed to stepping out into space. So whichever side you want to start at, just make sure that you're stepping towards that side. So we're going to inhale, sweep the arms up overhead, palms come to touch. Grow nice and tall, exhaling over to one side, half moon. Inhale back to center, exhale over to the other side. Inhaling back up and stepping out to your 5-pointed star. Turning the toes out slightly, we're gonna exhale, come into our goddess pose. So bending through the knees, making sure that the pelvis stays nice and tucked. Inhale, back up to star. We're going to extend our hand as if we're gonna be falling over. Someone's pulling us towards that edge of the mat, and dropping down into our triangle pose. Your knee should be straight. I can't straighten my knee with my ankle, so just ignore me. We're gonna make sure that our toes are twisted out, facing that short edge of the mat, and our back foot, the arch is in line with our heel, twisting the body open. We're going to bend into that knee, dropping the elbow, and sweeping the arm up and forward, coming into our extended side angle pose. Sweeping that arm around, twisting on the back toe, so we're in a high lunge here. And then we're going to drop that back knee, release the toes, sweep the arms up into our low lunge, perhaps opening the arms into goddess arms here, opening the chest. Releasing the hands back down, popping back up off those toes. And then we are going to rotate ourselves around so that we're in our little side squat here. If your toes or your heel can't come all the way to the ground, that's fine. Perhaps bringing the hands to heart center. And we're going to slowly move ourselves over to the other side. Trying to do that with hands or with no hands, depending on how you feel today. Rotating around so that you're in a high lunge on the other side, dropping the knee, untucking the toe, sweeping the arms up, perhaps coming into cactus arms here in your low lunge. Breathing, exhale, releasing the hands, popping up off that back toe. We're going to come into our pyramid pose. Apologies, I missed this on the other side, but we will do it again. And then twisting that back toe open, bringing the elbow onto the knee, and sweeping the arm up overhead into our extended side angle pose, making sure you're tucking the pelvis, tucking the tailbone. straightening that front knee, releasing the arm down and sweeping the arm open to the side into your triangle pose. And bringing a slight bend into the knee, we're gonna windmill the arms back up, bringing the toes to face forward into our 5-pointed star. You can start to turn the toes out and drop down into your goddess pose, bending the knees. Inhaling back to our 5-pointed star. We're going to step, continue in the same direction you've been going. Inhaling the arms up overhead, palms to touch. Exhale, side bend. Inhale, center. Exhale, side bend to the other side. Inhale, center. We step out, back to the other way. Star, twist the toes out, and goddess pose, bending the knees deeply. Inhale, back to your star. We're gonna twist the toes open to that same side that we just did, closing off that back foot, opening the arms out and beginning to be pulled to that side as if someone's pulling your fingers, and then releasing into our triangle pose. Gaze can be up at the thumb or down at the ground. Beginning to bend into that front knee, dropping the elbow onto the thigh and sweeping the arm up and over, extended side angle. And rotating that down, stepping the back foot in slightly, coming into our pyramid pose. So trying to extend into that front leg. Popping up on the back toes, coming into your long lunge. And dropping that back knee, untucking the toes, sweeping the arms up. Stretching the chest open. Vinyasa, low lunge. Releasing the hands back down, tucking the toes, and twisting yourself around so that you're in your little side squat again. Perhaps bringing the hands to heart center. And then with your hands or with no hands, just moving yourself over to the other side. Twisting yourself to that side into your high lunge, and then dropping that back knee, untucking the toes, sweeping the arms up overhead into your low lunge. Releasing the hands back down, coming up off those toes, stepping that back foot in slightly to come into your pyramid pose on the other side. We'll stay here for a breath longer since I missed it the first time. Just really trying to feel that hamstring stretch in that front leg. And then twisting that back toe open. We're gonna bring our elbow onto our knee, sweeping the arm up and overhead, opening up into our extended side angle. Sweeping the arms up, straightening that knee, and then dropping the hand, peeling the chest open into our triangle pose. Nice and strong in the legs. Sweeping the arms up and bringing the toes out, goddess pose. Try and come deeper than you did for the other three. Breathing into that burn and straightening up, extended star. And then stepping to that first side of your mat, sweeping the arms up overhead. Exhale, side bend. Inhale back to center. And exhale, other side. Inhale back to center. And exhale, hands through heart center, Anjali Mudra. Taking a moment here, maybe closing down the eyes if that feels comfortable. And again, noticing any differences now that we've moved through the moon salutations. Far less common, so can be a bit much your first few times doing it. It's definitely very leg intensive. So just noticing where you feel heat, where you feel sensation. I feel it a little bit in the arches of my feet. I find I do a lot more gripping with my feet and my toes. Just observing that in the body, noticing what you're feeling without any judgment. You've done your best so far today, and that's great. You made it to your mat. there was your win. And releasing the arms down, we're gonna do a balancing pose. Now tree pose. So tree pose can always be different from day to day. I noticed that my balance is different from day to day. There are some days I cannot do a headstand to save my life. I have been able to do a headstand since I was a child. I was in gymnastics as a kid. I could always do a headstand. But there are some days where it's just not gonna happen for me, and I get so frustrated because I'm like, I've always been able to do a headstand. Some days it's just not gonna happen for you. Just accept that now. If it doesn't happen, don't get frustrated. Just know, yeah, today my balance is off. It is what it is. Maybe you're dehydrated. Maybe it's the time of the month for you if you're, you know, of that persuasion. It could be anything. Maybe you had a really hard workout yesterday, so your body's tired today. It could literally be anything. So that's my disclaimer. Moving into tree pose. We're gonna start to root down through the feet again, tucking the tailbone, tilting the pelvis, engaging the core, and start to think almost as if you are growing roots through one of your feet. Again, choose whichever side you'd like, but start to extend your roots into the ground. So I always like to say in this pose, root down to rise up. So really feel that you're pressing into the floor. You're extending those roots long into the ground. And maybe you start to float one of your feet. And noticing here, if when you do that, you immediately sink into the hip, we really want to keep the hip nice and long and extended, so it's as if there's no movement. Almost as if you could lift that foot and anyone looking at you from the head up wouldn't know that you lifted one of your feet. So I'm already, from after doing the moon salutations, feeling a lot in my arch of my foot, of the balancing foot, so you might notice that as well. That's always fine. As you do more yoga, your feet do get used to being barefoot and gripping. So that's fine. I haven't been doing a lot of my yoga practice lately, so I'm really sensitive in my feet. So just bringing the heel towards the ankle. If you want to lift it up, you can start to come up onto the calf, making sure as always that we are not putting our feet or any pressure on our knees. So if you would like to come up farther than this, you can reach down, grab that foot, and help bring it up high into your thigh. Staring at a point that isn't moving. So looking at me for instruction or demo if you don't know what I'm talking about, but then please look away because I assure you that I will be moving. The balance is not great today. So just staring at a point on the wall, maybe on the floor, whatever works for you, and trying to move slowly. So not immediately doing any jarring motions like yanking your foot up and trying to get it into your thigh. Just seeing slowly where you can slide your foot up to, and breathing as always, and then pressing that heel into the thigh and pressing the thigh into the heel so that you are really, really stable there. Breathing. If you are nice and balanced, you can open your branches, releasing the arms out, perhaps lifting the gaze up, maybe playing with closing the eyes. And then releasing down, shaking those feet out. Y'all, it's not happening for me today. My feet are aching. Ooh. Okay, so shaking that out. And we're gonna move to the other side. So again, beginning to extend your roots through into the ground. Perhaps lifting a foot. I apologize if the camera's shaking. We've got a cat being crazy. I might have to grab him. Okay, I think he's lost interest. That's definitely not gonna help you with your balance. So maybe lifting a foot, perhaps bringing it in towards the ankle, maybe creeping up to the calf. And if you would like to try, you can slowly reach down, grabbing the foot and trying to pull that up into the leg. You might also notice a big difference between the two legs. I personally, on this side, which is my right foot lifting up, I have not been able to come into a full foot thigh tree pose for ages, and I don't know if it's just my hip isn't letting me do it. I just can't do it. It feels like I'm tearing the skin off my inner thigh with my foot. It's awful. So I just come into the lower version. There's nothing wrong with that, still a tree. So just finding where you're comfortable, finding where you're stable. If you're ready, you can open the arms up, perhaps gazing upwards, perhaps closing the eyes. And then releasing that down, we're gonna shake out the legs. Perfect. So coming to the top of the mat, we're going to come into somewhat of a sun salutation, but we're gonna stop ourselves after the downward dog. So we're inhaling the arms up overhead, palms to touch. Exhaling, swan diving down. We're gonna hold our forward folds for a second. So you might wanna open your feet a little bit wider. Maybe you wanna bend your knees really, really heavily. Just notice what feels comfortable for you in this moment today, but making sure that you rock your weight a little bit forward in the feet. You don't wanna be sitting in your heels here. You do wanna get this into your hamstrings. So rocking forward slightly. I like to think of scooping my lower belly up and under, and that gives me a little bit more stability. And you might want to reach for opposite elbows and just letting your head hang. So finding where you feel comfortable, where you feel supported and held, and then just coming to release the upper body in that pose. Letting gravity pull your upper back, your lower back, long, relaxed. Maybe you want to rock side to side, shake the head yes and no, letting the neck go. And bringing the hands down to the floor, we're going to step back directly into our downward facing dog. Now we're going to come into half pigeon here. If this is too hard for your knees, you can always lay on your back and come into figure four. But if you want to come into half pigeon, you can come in whatever way is comfortable for you. I like to lift up one leg in my downward dog and then sweep that forward. And ideally you want your ankle, knee to be in a straight line. Of course, as always, depending on your knee, that might not be possible for you. I can't do a parallel like this, so I have to just kind of pull my foot back a little bit, and I find then that it's a lot more comfortable on my knee. So just making sure that you're rocking up onto your hip so that you're really feeling the stretch in the glute and the hip of that bent leg. I always like to drop the elbows. If you're warm enough and you're ready, you can come fully into sleeping swan where you lay your chest down. I like to kind of take my time. We'll be here for a minute, so lengthening that back leg out. And just letting gravity pull that hip down, feeling that hip release a little bit. If you'd like to grab a block, you can do that to place your forehead on it. You can also place a block under your bum of the bent leg, so that might give you a little bit more support. Just whatever is going to help you feel your most comfortable in these postures. That's what we always aim for when we're propping. We want to do what's going to help us so that we're not straining. And just noticing as you breathe, as you sit in this pose, maybe you can go a little deeper. Maybe you're starting to feel emotions swirling in the body and the mind. Hip openers can be quite intense for some people, myself included. I hold a lot of emotion and tension in my hips. So when I start to do hip openers and releasing things, I find that I can get quite angry or frustrated. Sometimes I cry. It all depends on the day, really. So just noticing if that's starting to happen, if you're starting to get that feeling of, oh my God, I need to come out, like, oh, I need to get out of this pose, you feel really uncomfortable. Unless it's a pain feeling, if there is pain happening, do immediately come out of the posture. But if it's just that feeling of uncomfortable, I don't like what's happening, I'm feeling frustrated, why is she still talking, we need to come out of this pose, I invite you to just kind of sit with that for a second. Try and really breathe deeply in and out through the nose. And really just take a little bit longer. If you hit that stage where you're like, I don't care what she's talking about, I'm coming out of the pose, just challenge yourself to take one more deep breath in and out before you do. Always do one more breath if you can. Again, as long as it's not pain. If you're feeling any sharpness, any tugging, anything that you know is bad, please do exit the pose immediately. We don't want to be hurting ourselves here. just taking a few more breaths here. I haven't been doing a lot of hip openers lately because of my ankle. I can't really make them as equal on both sides. So for me, this is actually feeling amazing. Normally by now I'm pissed. I'm ready to leave the pose. So you all get to suffer because I'm enjoying it. Taking one more deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. And then we can start to slowly come up, rocking over to that hip. We're gonna bring the other leg up and around and immediately come into another hip opener because I live to torture you. So we're gonna come into fire log pose. So we're gonna bring this bottom leg, which is the one that we had bent just now in our pigeon, and we're gonna flex the toes back towards us, but we want to have that idea of that straight line here. And then we're gonna take our other foot and bring it up onto our knee. So you wanna make sure that you're flexing the toes back on both sides. This is gonna protect your knees, which is why in fire log we can keep our leg straight, whereas in pigeon you might have to pull it back. So we're just gonna start to lean into this a little bit, starting to lean forward. You may have a ton of space here like I do. My hips are crotchety, they do not move. So if you wanna bring a prop or something under your knee, you can do that. Maybe you're all the way down, your knees are on each other and you're thinking, what is she talking about? This is the easiest thing ever. Do make sure that your foot here is on the knee instead of being in a little bit. That does make it a lot easier. So you do want to make sure that you're fully lined up, ankle to knee, and that straight angle with the stacking of the legs. But even then, if you're still quite far forward, you can lean forward and try to bring the hands forward and come down as if you're coming into sleeping swan as well. For anyone who's in this pose like me right now, that sounds insane. Who could possibly do that? I assure you, I know a few people that can. So I always just try to make sure that both of my sit bones are evenly planted on the ground. And I'm really feeling that stretch in my hip flexor and my glute here. So I just start to try and lean myself forward a little bit, little by little. It's totally fine wherever you're at for yourself today. Maybe you notice you can move a little bit farther into it than you could before. Maybe you feel like it's worse than you have before. Oh my gosh, you're starting to catastrophize. It's fine. It could be stress. It could be exercise that you've done otherwise. I don't know. That didn't really make sense, but here we are. I'm in a hip opener. I suddenly can't speak. It is what it is. So just observing where you're at today. And as always, no judgment. Just letting it happen. And it is what it is, right? Here we are. Taking one more breath in through the nose, opening the mouth, and slowly releasing that. Oh. Straightening the legs out in front of you, giving them a little shake. Ooh. We're gonna pull the knee that was on top, so whichever side you want to do, the knee that was on top, in towards you, planting the foot. Try and plant the heel as close to the bum as you can. We're just going to come into a little twist here before we do the other side. So bringing that knee in, we're going to take our opposite arm, wrap it around. You can either come from the outside like I am. If you want to extend upwards and come around this way, you can. Whatever's going to be the most comfortable for you. We're going to inhale the same arm as the knee up and start to twist that behind us. So placing the fingertips on the ground behind you, starting to twist around so that you're gazing at that shoulder, tucking the chin slightly here to protect the neck, and just noticing if your lower back is really caving in. Try and stay up nice and straight. This might start to stretch a lot into your hamstring of the straight leg. So just noticing kind of what's pulling, if there's a way that you can make it more comfortable, maybe bending that leg. Just sort of play around with it and see what makes it the most comfortable for you. But trying to make sure that we're not putting all of our weight into that backhand. So we do want to be sitting up quite tall, and if we can release that hand, we can if we have to. So just lightly twisting, not torquing ourselves with that backhand, just starting to release the spine. And inhaling the head back to center, followed by the body, releasing that leg. We're going to roll over onto our hands and knees here, and then immediately lift back up into our downward facing dog. Take a moment here and see
if you feel different from one hip to the next, one leg to the next, does one feel longer? Just observing that. And then we're gonna immediately go into the other side. So if you came onto your back and you did your figure 4 on the other side, doing that again, just swapping legs. I'm gonna see if I can do this with my ankle today. So as always, just moving slowly. Maybe you have an injury like me, maybe you're just feeling a little tender, maybe you had a hard workout yesterday. I'm gonna see if I can do that with this, because I do love a pigeon, but my ankle is still just a little cranky. Oh yeah, that's better. So just coming into your pose, making sure that you're rocking up onto that hip. Again, you can be on your elbows here, you can be on a block. If you'd like to come all the way down to sleeping swan, you can go ahead, but again, just noting that we'll be here for a little bit. And just starting to tune into the breath, tune into the body, noticing what's happening here. This side already feels a lot more uncomfortable for me, just because, like I said, I haven't been able to do a lot of hip openers with my ankle, so this side is a lot tighter. So I'm already noticing that heat growing. So always trying to use your breath to get you through the tougher postures, the tougher moments. Deep breaths can always calm the nervous system a little bit, whether you're just at work, chatting to someone in an argument, in a yoga pose. Stopping and taking a few deep breaths in and out through the nose can really, really help to calm down the nervous system and relax you. And noticing how the pose changes. Maybe gravity's pulling you a little bit deeper and that's feeling really good. Maybe it's pulling you deeper and you're noticing, ooh, this is getting a little too intense. Maybe you want to bring the block under your bum cheek. Maybe you want to come deeper. There's no rules. If yesterday you came into full sleeping swan and today you don't feel like it and you want to stay up on your elbows, that's fine. Totally fine. Do what feels best for you. Your yoga practice is your own. I'm just here to give you ideas. Really breathing deeply here. I'll be here for a few more breaths. So again, noticing if you start to get that flight response where you're thinking, I gotta come out. Try to take one more deep, deep breath in and out through the nose. And then once you've done that, think, well, maybe I'll do one more. And then maybe one more. Taking a deep inhale in through the nose and out the mouth. And slowly releasing from that, dropping the hip, spinning that around so we can come into our fire log pose on the other side. So the leg that was bent is going to be your bottom leg here. I'm gonna see what we got here. Again, making sure that you're flexing the toe back towards the knee. So you've got your leg nice and straight, lined up with the ankle and the knee. And then you're gonna take your other foot and cross it over the knee. Again, flexing the toes back. And you might notice that one side is a little bit more comfortable. This one feels a little bit better for me. Just breathing here, maybe starting to come forward slightly. If it's quite intense like it is for me, just sending that breath into the hip, into the glute. Making sure that the shoulders haven't crept up to the ears, keeping that nice and relaxed, breathing deeply. I just noticed one of the leopard prints on my pants is a little heart. Noticing if there's tension, noticing if you're clenching the jaw. Letting And slowly releasing the legs out in front of you, giving that a little shake. And then the same leg that was on top just now, bringing that knee in towards the body, planting the heel. I like to flex the toes back towards me of the straight leg and grabbing that knee, inhaling up nice and tall, twisting that hand behind you, tucking the chin slightly to protect the neck. And again, noticing if you can lift your hand here or if you would fall over. Pressing yourself up nice and tall, even in the sit bones. Just wringing out the spine. Feeling that nice massage on the organs. And then inhaling the head back to center, followed by the body. We're going to come into our butterfly pose here, so bringing the soles of the feet to touch. I like to grab a block for this, so if you'd like to do that as well, you can go ahead. We're gonna make sure that we are comfortably seated so that our lower back is nice and straight. We're coming straight up out of the hips. So notice if you're really feeling like you're about to fall over. If you need to, you can come onto a block here. That can sometimes help with your hips if you are a little tight in the hips, if it's not letting you sit nice and forward, then you wanna make sure that you are elevating that. So bringing the feet as closer, as far from you as possible, or as comfortable, I guess, is what I was trying to say. I like to bring mine out a little bit farther for this one, just to get that little bit of a diamond shape. And I'm gonna use my block for my head. So inhaling up nice and tall. As always, leading with the chin, trying to make sure that we come down with our back flat for as long as possible. Noticing when you hit that wall, so we've really hinged from the hip here because we're keeping the spine straight. When you hit that spot where you can't go any farther, that's a cat toy. Just inhaling, growing a little bit taller, and then you can exhale, drop the head, fold into it. I like to place my block on my feet here and just drop the third eye down onto the block. It feels nice and cozy. Maybe rocking the head side to side. Just releasing down. Forward folds are so good for releasing stress from your day. Just relaxing here, letting go. Trying not to be distracted by my out of control cat. Breathing in and out through the nose. Maybe you've come a little bit deeper and you want to lower the block if you're using one. And if ever you move a little bit deeper in a pose and then you find that that's not comfortable, you're allowed to come back up. You don't have to stay anywhere. If you get yourself nice and deep in a pose and you think, whoa, I've outgunned myself, this is not comfortable, you can always release up a little bit. So finding what works for you and just staying there, letting the body release, letting the mind release. And just slowly beginning to come back up here. We're gonna come into our supported fish pose. I love this pose. So this is where you're gonna need your blocks or your heavy books if you have them. Depending on how comfortable you are in the neck, you may only use one block. This is gonna have your head tilting back. So if like me, you get like swimmer's nose or something like that, I always like to have a block under my head. But if you only have one block, you definitely want to use it for your back, and then maybe use pillows under your head or something like that. I like to do it on the second height. I'm quite flexible in my back and it just feels really great to peel my chest open. You can always do it on the lowest setting. We don't mess with the highest setting for this one. You definitely want the support. So the second setting here is the highest you're gonna go. So I like the second one, but if you want more of a restorative kind of lightly opening, then you can always come to the lowest setting. If you didn't have any blocks or books or anything like that, you can still do this pose. It is a heart opener. So you can roll up a towel long ways so it's like a nice little log and lay it down on your mat. And that will still give you the idea of opening, pulling the chest open. You can even do it with like a bunch of pillows or something. Anything that's really gonna let your chest peel open. So placing this block here, it's gonna come to about the bottom part of your bra if you wear a bra. If not, it'll be sort of that, just above the bottom of your rib cage. And then second block, if you are using one, is gonna come right under the crown of the head or wherever's the most comfortable for you, depending on where your ponytail is, or maybe you have a lumpy scalp like I do and you need to find the right spot. So just beginning to come down over the blocks, finding that placement with the center block, and just tucking in the shoulder blades, just so you can really feel that opening here. Placing your blocks. If this is hard on your lower back at all, again, you can lower this middle back block, or you can keep your feet up like this. You can bring the feet out wide and drop the knees in towards each other. You can straighten the legs. I personally love to do butterfly legs with this pose. It just feels so good and restorative here, and like fully opening. And just noticing if you have any pressure points, and you can always come up, fix yourself. I've got that bottom block is poking into something in my shoulder, so I gotta twist that a little bit. And you can always also grab props like your blanket and lay that over this if you'd like, if that's gonna make it a little bit softer on you. Sometimes blocks can be quite hard. I've got the cork ones, so mine are quite hard. So just noticing where you need to prop things. I love this pose. This is one of my favorites to sort of end my practice before I come into my Shavasana. Just to really open the heart, open the chest, and let go. So just closing down the eyes here. And finding that comfort, that stillness. This is sometimes a similar reaction as hip openers, and some people heart openers can feel quite intense. If you don't feel safe in this sort of a pose, absolutely you can come into something different. You can just lay flat on your back. You can come into your Shavasana now if you're ready. You can always lay in the fetal position. Never push yourself to do something that makes you feel too uncomfortable. So noticing if you feel that, maybe it's starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable. Maybe you feel some emotions rising up. Maybe you feel like you might cry. You're starting to feel a little bit angry. Just noticing that. And it's always fine. This is always a safe space for you, so whatever emotions you have in these practices are 100% your own, and they are valid. And you can always feel free to release that in this space, in this time we have together. Dropping down. And just slowly starting to move out of this posture, just so you can remove the blocks so you don't have to move too much. Maybe rolling to one side or slightly lifting yourself up. And we're just gonna come down to our backs now and get out any last wiggles that you have before you come into your Shavasana. So maybe you wanna do a happy baby. Maybe you wanna do an inversion. If you've been practicing something like your shoulder stand, you can go ahead and do that. Just releasing those last bits. And then when you've done that, when you're ready, just coming to lay flat on your back. You can, again, keep the legs up if you'd like, with the feet wide and the knees knocking in towards each other. Or you can come into the classical Shavasana where you have the legs out long, the feet start to fall open, perhaps the arms are out to the sides, palms facing up. And just noticing if your chin is really high, just tucking the chin slightly so that you're extending the neck along the floor. If this doesn't feel safe, as always, you can take Shavasana on your stomach. You can come into the fetal position, whatever's gonna work for you. Just coming into that pose, relaxing down, and beginning to come to stillness here. Tuning into the breath. Feeling the body releasing down into the ground. Allowing any last bits of stress or tension to seep out of the body into the earth. Allowing the earth to absorb that, remove it from you. Taking these last few minutes out of this practice for you, just to do something good for you, to release your day, just knowing that in these few moments of stillness that there is nothing that you have to do and there is nowhere that you have to be. That can all pick up once you're done. For right now, just settling in, just being here with your body, with your mind, spending some time with yourself. In silence. Safe and held. Noticing when the mind wanders, just bringing it back into the breath, back into the body. Releasing down. I got my driver's license last week, just like we always talked about. 'Cause you were so excited for me to finally drive up to your house. But today I drove through the suburbs, crying 'cause you weren't around. And you're probably with that blonde girl who always made me bleed out. She's so much older than me. She's everything I'm insecure about. Yet today I drove through the suburbs. 'Cause how could I ever love someone else? I know we weren't perfect, but I've never felt this way for no one. Oh, and I just can't imagine how you could be so okay
now that I'm gone. I guess you didn't mean what you wrote in that song about me. 'Cause you said forever, now I drive alone past your street. Yeah, you said forever, now I drive alone past your street. Beginning to bring small movements into the fingers and toes, perhaps rolling the wrists and the ankles, maybe extending the arms up overhead for a full body stretch, letting out any sighs or yawns. And when you're ready, just beginning to bend the knees and rolling over to either side, coming into the fetal position. You can use your bottom arm as a pillow, just resting here for a moment. And when you're ready, just using your hands to help slowly press you up, keeping the eyes closed or heavy, coming into your comfortable seat, your cross-legged position. Bringing the hands to heart center, Anjali Mudra, feeling the heart lifting towards the thumbs. Perhaps resting the hands flat on the chest, feeling the heart beating. And just bowing the head slightly, taking a moment to honor ourselves for showing up to our mat today, taking time out just for ourselves, just for our bodies, and just coming back to that feeling at the beginning of the practice, that thing, that grateful gratitude moment that we had. Maybe you still feel the same thing. Maybe you've noticed other things you can be grateful for. Maybe they're your physical body. Maybe you're grateful for being able to practice yoga. Just letting that feeling fill you up for a moment. Just returning to that feeling of gratitude. And that feeling of trust that things will inevitably always get better when they are hard. Knowing that you're always in a safe space, a safe community here, where you can ask for the help that you need. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free. The light in me bows to the light in you. Namaste. Thanks everyone for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed this flow. If you would like to see something specific from me in the future, please do let me know in the comments or on Instagram. You can find me at Harmonious Hippy. Please like this video if you enjoyed the practice, comment, subscribe, tell your friends to subscribe, follow me on Instagram, all that good stuff. I do appreciate it so much. And I also appreciate you guys for joining me and moving your bodies. I hope that you have a wonderful week, a wonderful weekend, wonderful life. I appreciate you so, so much. Namaste.